Point Nemo. Point Nemo isn't a piece of land at all, but the loneliest spot in the ocean. Located in the South Pacific, it is the oceanic pole of inaccessibility, the furthest place from any landmass on Earth. If you dropped an anchor here, the nearest humans would be over 2,600 kilometers away. In fact, you're often closer to astronauts orbiting in the International Space Station than anyone on land. The ocean here is incredibly deep, stretching down over 4 kilometers into a dark, freezing abyss. Because it sits within the South Pacific Gyre, ocean currents block nutrients from entering, making it a biological desert. There are almost no fish, no marine mammals, and no birds. It is completely silent except for crashing waves and howling winds. Because of its absolute isolation, space agencies use Point Nemo as a graveyard for decommissioned spacecraft. Hundreds of satellites, cargo ships, and the remnants of the space station Mir have been intentionally crashed here, sinking to the deep ocean floor. If you found yourself stranded at Point Nemo, help would never arrive in time. You would float in a vast, featureless blue void, completely cut off from humanity, with nothing but burning space debris falling from the sky to keep you company. Bouvet Island. Tucked away in the South Atlantic Ocean, Bouvet Island is the most remote island on Earth. It is a volcanic speck of land surrounded by thousands of kilometers of rough, icy seas, with Antarctica being its closest neighbor over 1,600 kilometers away. 93% of the island is permanently covered by a massive glacier, while the remaining sliver consists of sheer black cliffs dropping straight into the churning ocean. Landing a boat here is almost impossible due to brutal waves and a lack of harbors, meaning the only real way to reach it is by helicopter. The weather is a non-stop nightmare of thick fog, blinding snowstorms, and hurricane-force winds that keep temperatures freezing year-round. No humans have ever lived here permanently, and the only residents are colonies of penguins, seals, and hardy seabirds. The island is so isolated that it was once the site of a bizarre mystery in 1964, when an abandoned lifeboat was discovered perfectly intact on the rocks, with its oars nearby, but absolutely no sign of passengers or footprints. To this day, no one knows how it got there. If you were left behind on Bouvet Island, you would be trapped on a frozen rock with no shelter, exposed to the raw fury of Antarctic winds, completely forgotten by civilization. Devon Island. Located in the high Arctic territory of Nunavut, Canada, Devon Island is the largest uninhabited island on Earth. It is a vast, barren plateau, roughly the size of Croatia, but completely devoid of human life. The landscape is so dry, cold, and rocky that scientists consider it a polar desert, and NASA routinely uses the island to simulate missions to Mars. The ground is a frozen, jagged wasteland of fractured rock and permafrost, carved out by ancient glaciers and an enormous 23-kilometer-wide impact crater called Houghton, which formed millions of years ago when a meteorite slammed into the area. During the brief summer, the sun never sets, casting an eerie daylight over the empty plains. In the winter, the island plunges into total darkness for months at a time, with temperatures dropping below minus 50 degrees Celsius. There are no trees, no soil, and almost no vegetation, meaning the only signs of life are a few wandering muskoxen and Arctic foxes. Walking across Devon Island feels like walking on the surface of another planet. If your vehicle or communication failed out here, the sheer scale of the empty, silent tundra would swallow you whole, leaving you to freeze in a hyper-isolated desert where no rescue team could easily find you. Snake Island. Officially known as Ilha de Queimada Grande, this small, rocky island sits about 35 kilometers off the coast of Brazil, and humans are legally banned from setting foot here. From a distance, it looks like a beautiful green paradise, but step onto its shores and you will realize why it is entirely uninhabited. The island is infested with thousands of golden lancehead vipers, one of the most venomous snakes in the world. They became trapped here thousands of years ago when rising sea levels cut the island off from the mainland, and with no natural predators, their population exploded. Today, there is roughly one deadly snake for every square meter of land. The golden lancehead's venom is 3 to 5 times stronger than its mainland cousins, specifically evolved to melt human flesh and cause instant internal bleeding, organ failure, and brain hemorrhages. The snakes are everywhere, hanging from branches, hiding under leaves, and slithering across bare rocks. The Brazilian government tightly controls access, only allowing the Navy or scientists to visit for brief maintenance on an automated lighthouse. If you were dropped here, survival would be a matter of minutes, as every step would trigger an invisible, lethal predator. Marie Byrd Land. Deep within the frozen continent of Antarctica lies Marie Byrd Land, a massive territory roughly the size of Western Europe that holds a unique geographical distinction. It is the largest unclaimed territory on Earth, meaning no nation owns it and absolutely no one lives there. The region is a colossally thick sheet of ice, with some areas measuring over 4 kilometers deep, burying entire mountain ranges beneath a crushing white blanket. The environment is one of the most hostile places on the planet, featuring temperatures that plummet below -80 degrees Celsius and relentless winds that rush down the polar plateau at speeds exceeding 200 kilometers per hour. Unlike other parts of Antarctica, there are no permanent scientific research stations here, making it a true blank spot on the map. The isolation is so absolute that the landscape looks identical in every direction, a blinding horizon of white that causes total sensory deprivation and severe psychological disorientation. If you were stranded in the heart of Marie Byrd Land, you would be thousands of kilometers away from the nearest human face. The extreme cold would freeze your breath instantly. Your body would burn through its energy trying to stay warm, and you would slowly succumb to the hypothermia in a silent, freezing void. Clipperton Island. Clipperton Island is a tiny coral atoll located in a vast, empty stretch of the eastern Pacific Ocean, thousands of kilometers from Mexico. It is a completely flat, barren strip of sand surrounding a stagnant, poisonous lagoon that smells heavily of sulfur. The island has no fresh water, and the vegetation consists of nothing more than a few scattered, dying coconut palms. The entire landscape is dominated by millions of bright orange land crabs that swarm over the coral, eating absolutely everything they can find, alongside hundreds of thousands of screeching seabirds that cover the island in a thick layer of guano. Clipperton has a dark, tragic history. In the early 20th century, a small group of soldiers and their families were stationed here, but when supply ships stopped coming, they were forgotten. They slowly died of starvation until a tyrannical lighthouse keeper began a brutal reign of terror over the surviving women before a passing ship rescued them. Today, the island is abandoned and visited only by occasional illegal fishing boats. If you were left stranded here, the relentless tropical heat, lack of water, and the constant deafening noise of millions of swarming crabs and birds would drive you insane long before you died. Dallol. Located deep within the Dallol Depression in northern Ethiopia, Dallol is an alien landscape of hydrothermal fields where human life cannot exist. It sits more than 100 meters below sea level, making it one of the lowest and hottest places on Earth. The ground is a hallucinatory patchwork of neon yellow, vibrant green, and deep orange pools, created by boiling water, sulfur, iron, and thick salt deposits bubbling up from a volcano buried underground. The air here is heavy and toxic, filled with suffocating fumes of hydrochloric acid, chlorine gas, and sulfur dioxide that burn your eyes and throat with every breath. Temperatures routinely soar past 45 degrees Celsius, and the ground itself is hot enough to melt through regular shoes. The water in the pools isn't regular water, but a highly acidic brine with a pH level close to 0, meaning it would dissolve your skin on contact. No plants can grow, no animals can survive, and even microbes struggle to exist in the hyper-acidic boiling environment. Walking through Dallol feels like stepping into a colorful hellscape where the very air you breathe is actively trying to poison your lungs and dissolve your body from the inside out.